The prophet Jeremiah, who has written both the Lamentations and the book of Jeremiah, that in the book of Lamentations, he wasn't just about negativism, not at all. He was talking about how to escape Babylonian captivity. And he told us the memorable words which are repeated in a very popular hymn. Morning by morning, new mercies we see. All that we need, thy hand had provided. Great is thy faithfulness. So when I come to the gatherings of the OECS, or CARICOM, or in my own parliament, I look at our tremendous achievements as a people. And this integration movement has had a lot of achievements. We have a common currency. We take it for granted. I have a $50 bill here. I don't want anybody to ask me for it because the salary of a Prime Minister is St. Vincent and Grenadines. It's not what it ought to be, and I invite you to be my trade union leader. But this is the strongest currency in the Western Hemisphere after the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. This. You can take this on the high streets of London, of New York, Miami, Toronto, and you can change it and get your US dollars, you can get your Canadian dollars, and you can get your British pounds. I don't know of any other currency in our hemisphere other than the US dollar and the Canadian dollar that you can do that. So that's a major achievement. It is true that we have had to pay a price because we have backed this currency with a like number of US dollars, almost 100%, way above the legal requirement of 60%. And we have sacrificed about 1% economic growth per year and some jobs. But the alternative would make things worse. So like Barbados, we defend our currency. And that is one important achievement. Then, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court is the only court within the region at the High Court level and the Court of Appeal level, which is integrated. We have the CCJ. And we have good quality judges, and every single day we deliver the oxygen of impartial justice in our law courts. And when people come from other parts of the world and see us in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, they applaud us. I know sometimes when persons look at the Caribbean and they come here and they think we have some kind of kangaroo court. But if you want to see kangaroo court, you should go to some other places not too far from us. And you will see some strange things which are happening. So that is something which we have achieved. And then the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority is a Category 1 jurisdiction. You register an aircraft in this region, the aircraft can fly from here to the United States territory. Very important. Of course, you have to get clearance from the Department of Transport in the United States and all the rest of it. There are people who look with great surprise when they hear that we have a Category 1 jurisdiction and Barbados has a Category 2 jurisdiction. That's an area, perhaps, Mia, that we can work on. We can work on. I didn't, the first one about the currency, that might be a bridge too far at the moment. But we can do something, we might be able to do something in respect of the court system and share judges, for instance, to strengthen both judicial systems. And, of course, we have the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority. And there are many institutions of this kind which we have built. These small islands in the Eastern Caribbean. Give an example of the Monetary Union. Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, ECA, ECTEL, and there are others. So we have a lot to celebrate. And we also celebrate the fact that we travel within the OECS. We can travel within the OECS on a ID card, a picture ID. And one of the things we'd like Mia to help us with is that when we're passing through Barbados to transit, we must be able to use our ID rather than requiring a passport, in addition to the other things which you have spoken about. Because I must say this, everything that Didicus has said, everything that Mia and Alan have said, I've adopted, and I call them my own. I'm making illustrations and seeking to add value to the discussion. Now, integration has to be organic, and it has to be one in which the whole is more than a summation of the individual parts, and all the individual parts must have added value, even if components in the whole have added value greater than others, but all must have added value. Otherwise, we are going to have a situation in which we are unequally yoked, which is really the situation in CARICOM. And an integration movement in which we are unequally yoked will not long survive. In CARICOM, we have important work which we are doing in functional cooperation, important work in security, foreign policy coordination, though the chaos between us over Venezuela is something which we have to sort out. And there's the economic area of integration, trade and economic integration. And we have moved from a customs union to a single market in quest of a single economy. We have to face the fact, though, that there are certain single economy aspects we have to look at very carefully. And there are many areas of the single market which we can easily address and improve upon. Like, for instance, Alan mentioned the matter of contingent rights. I'm a university graduate. I can travel to a Caribbean outside of the OECS. I can go on the basis of the decisions of the heads of government confirmed and interpreted in the Shanique Myrie case. I can have 6 months. first of all. And then being as a graduate, I can get a CARICOM Skills National Certificate. But if my spouse is not a graduate, she's a hairdresser, she can't come with me and work. Well, that's ridiculous. And my children can't get basic medical attention, and they can't get access to the school. We have to put those things on a juridical footing to give a real meaning to the question of freedom of movement. My friend Bruce Golden, in his report, the Golden Commission, I appeared before it. And he said that there are two things that he wants to see within 5 years. And if they don't happen, he's going to suggest that Jamaica pull out of the single economy, of the CSME. He said, first of all, you want complete freedom of movement. We have it in the OECS. And I think it's going to be easy for us to do it with Barbados. But Jamaica has over 200,000 unemployed persons. I'm not talking about the 10 categories, which can move. That's twice the population of Grenada and of St. Vincent and Grenadines, more than twice the population of Dominica. That's 4 times the population of St. Kitts and Nevis, more than the population in St. Lucia, and 70% of the population in Barbados. I don't think that our populations are going to allow for complete freedom of movement between all the units within CARICOM. I think we have to acknowledge that. We have to do what are the things which are realistic and which are possible to be done. If you don't want to address contingent rights, how are you going to reach complete freedom of movement? And then it is said that we must have full, free convergence of the currency. Well, there are a couple of things about that. First of all, it is the market which determines currency convergence, not people on a high. In Trinidad and Tobago, it's 660, 670 TT to 1 US. But you go to some banks, they give you $7, and just outside the banks, you get $8 and $9. The market is saying something which is entirely different. And then, when the traders from St. Vincent buy the goods from the small farmers and send the goods to Trinidad, and they can't get the foreign exchange, they have to bank the TT dollars. What are they going to do with it? And therefore affecting in the rural St. Vincent, the farming community, contributing to the impoverishment of the people. Whereas, when we buy Trinidad and Tobago goods, we pay them in US dollars. We buy $150 million worth of goods annually from Trinidad, St. Vincent and Grenadines, that is. We used to sell them $20 million in farm products and the like. It's down now to 10. And you still can't get the currency. And therefore you're going to tell me that I must move to the single economy? So I want to talk some real, practical things, but I want to go for those things which are achievable. But we are skipping, as Alan says, a number of achievable matters. And anytime you hear some people say, well, my vision is, and they give you the large vision down the road, but don't want to deal with the next steps, well, you wonder whether they're serious about the vision, or only just that vision is just for window dressing. So, here we are. We have achieved a lot in the OECS, and we have many, many more things to do. I want to say this: the revised Treaty of Bastille establishing the economic union of the OECS. That's our central agenda. The Commission and the heads may have some other things they would like to talk about, but that's our central agenda. And we must implement the revised Treaty of Bastille. What is this integration movement going to look like in the years ahead? I give my own views. I said it before. Vaughan Lewis knows what I've said about this. He agrees with me. He has also written about it. You're going to have two poles of economic integration: a northern pole and one in the south and the southeast. The northern pole is going to involve Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, post-Donald Trump, Cuba, because the Donald will not last forever, neither would Ralph, but I can see what is ahead. And in time, Puerto Rico. And then in the south, you're going to have the OECS, Barbados. That's why strategically it is important for Barbados. I am submitting humbly to link with the OECS in the best way possible, most efficacious ways. And it will include Trinidad, the southern area, and Guyana, and also Suriname. Belize is wrapped up with SICA in Central America. And CARICOM will still be there crisscrossing, but crisscrossing with functional cooperation, crisscrossing with security issues, coordination of foreign policy, and single market issues. But we mustn't hold them back in the north if they want to have a deeper integration in economic sense with Haiti and the Dominican Republic and Cuba post-Trump and Puerto Rico in due course. And nobody must hold us back if you want to do it deeper in the south and the southeast. That is what I believe the Europeans call the variable geometry of integration. That's what it means in practical terms. And therefore, the OECS must get a carve-out in the treaty, the revised Treaty of Bastille, so that we can do certain things by and with ourselves, and with Barbados, and address them within our overall Caribbean civilization. But to fashion an integration movement appropriate to our circumstances and in the stage of modern globalization. We cannot pretend that the construct of the integration must be as it was at the Montego Bay Conference in 1947, and let the ghost of those ideas from the past to rule us in the present, even while we reaffirm that we must have the deepest form of integration which is possible and practicable in all the circumstances, to do two things: to uplift the lives of our people and to enhance the condition of our Caribbean civilization. Those are the two fundamental questions. And I make this non-ideological point, and I want our partners, our North American and European partners and others to listen to this one. Every single Caribbean country, whatever its internal arrangements, whatever its ideological disposition or predisposition, what it must do is to build a modern, competitive, post-colonial economy which is at once national, regional, and global. Each of those words is pregnant with real meaning. Modern and competitive, you use science, technology, you improve, you enhance your labor productivity, capital productivity. Post-colonial, it has a dimension which is political, but it is a fundamentally economic construct to say to us, there are no more preferences. We have to face that world. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I'm sure in all the various countries assembled here, St. Vincent and Grenadines, we have had 4 major crops since British colonialism: sugar, arrowroot, cotton, and bananas. And each of them has had some form of preference. Each of them. Keith, you had cocoa and nutmeg. Yes, yes. We do have marijuana. That's true, and
no preference.
And there are no preferences on that one. In fact, you may well have, Keith, a competitive advantage in illegal ganja, but we want to bring medicinal ganja. Now, the point I'm making is that the preferences are no more. And we have to adopt a position, part of it, not completely as utilitarian as was stated in the mid-19th century by British Foreign Secretary Lord Palmerston, who said that Britain has no permanent friends or no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Of course, we subscribe to the principles of the United Nations, multilateralism, peaceful coexistence, subscribe to all of those in interstate relations. But what we are having with many of our developmental partners, and so far, we fall into the trap too, you know. We have thanked here Britain, we have thanked the Europeans, we have thanked the North Americans during the time of the disaster, the 2 back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes, unprecedented. But I want to thank the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and I want to thank Cuba for their important role in helping us. The fact that some countries, powerful countries, may define Cuba and Venezuela as their enemies, it doesn't mean that I have to go along with their definition. They are our friends. I'm talking about those who are doing the definition. They are our friends, and I want to strengthen that friendship, and we strengthen it daily. But we have to stop this thing as soon as some countries say jump, we ask how high. If we want to develop an independent Caribbean civilization and working in concert with all our friends all over the world, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, one critical Sustainable Development Goal is a partnership between developing countries, small island developing states, and developed countries. But that partnership must not act as, on one hand, assisting us, and on another hand, cutting us down. For instance, I'm very happy and pleased about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Pleased with the security arrangements which we have with many of our partners in the North Atlantic, and the jobs which they provide to our country, to our people when they migrate, and all that. Very, very happy, and I want to see those things improve and strengthen. But that doesn't mean that you must declare us an area of risk and that you have to de-risk and you have to cut off corresponding banking relations, when in fact 95% of the illicit monies that pass through the world financial system pass through the countries which have monopoly capitalist institutions. That is a fact. Why are you troubling me in the periphery, who are very marginal in this business? We have to have an honest conversation about that. Because if you corresponding banking relations must be established as an international public good and cannot be dealt with willy-nilly, and you wake up one morning and you hear it's gone. What will happen? It will bring an end to civilized trade in our region and will cripple us. So you give us a lot of help on the one hand, and metaphorically you chop down our breadfruit tree on the other hand. It's entirely wrong and it's unfair. And we have to say so to our friends, while always working with them to strengthen our systems. Strengthen our systems to avoid abuse of our financial institutions. Have proper oversight, and there are international bodies to do so, in which we work together. We work together in the OECD framework. We work together in the FATF framework. We work together with the IMF recommendations. These are bodies which are deliberative with us. And then one Monday morning, you hear that the European Commission has arrogated unto itself the right to set a new set of rules without any consultation. We have to say that is wrong, and we have to say so very loudly and repeatedly. And I'm saying we must follow one half of the principle of Palmerston. Well, at least we are people deeply ingrained in democratic values, and we want to work with everybody in the world. Errol Barrow, one of the national heroes in Barbados said, we are friends of all and satellites of none. That's our position. And it must be felt that when I speak like how I've spoken in some respects here today, that I'm not a friend of Europe or America, because I am their dear friends. But we cannot be treated in the manner in which we have been treated very unfairly in many, many respects. Alan Chastany spoke on it, you know. Didicus Jules spoke on it. They have said what I've said, you know. But I have said it not in euphemistic language. I have said it in a manner. I have said it in a manner where the people of the OECS can understand and know what it is about. Huh?
It was eloquent.
Now, we have a lot of work to do on climate change. You know, I hear some people, I disagree fundamentally with President Trump when he says that there is no climate change. Disagree with that fundamentally. And I find that I'm disappointed that he withdrew from the climate accord. I'm very pleased to see the work he's doing with us on the security front, trying to strengthen and beef up security. And I admire that, and I want to thank him for his efforts in that regard, in those respects. But for those people who say in a facile manner that, you know, we always have bad weather. You know that talk? We always have bad weather. So what is the sense now? We have bad weather? Well, first of all, we have to be scientific. The science tells us that there is global warming, and it's man-made. The science also tells us that without certain steps in relation to adaptation and mitigation, by the end of this century, it's going to be 4 degrees or more above pre-industrial levels if we don't do anything. The Paris Accord tries to target it around 2% or thereabouts. But we are saying in the islands, 1.5 to stay alive. That's the mantra. These children who are here, who perform for us, Redemption Song, they expect us to do something about this. And we must do something about this. And it doesn't matter how powerful our adversary is. As President Macron says, this is the only planet we have, Earth. There's not a plan B planet. This is the only one. And we have to try to persuade persons to come along with our view and use the science to do so. But if they're not being persuaded, well, the world doesn't belong to only one set of people. All of us who share the view which I'm representing here, we have to work together and hope that others will come along and try and set the rules and the regulations. It is that simple. And we must be determined with it. You know, the pattern which we have had in recent years is unfamiliar. It's unusual. In the year since the 1800s, that we are having, we're recording hurricanes. It's the first time in the Eastern Caribbean we had 2 Category 5 hurricanes and 2 of them back to back. So it's unfamiliar. Look, what is the familiar pattern before? Those of us who got exercise books, Keith, it used to be on the back of the exercise book. They say that I'm the longest serving prime minister. It's you. I'm the longest serving continuously. You took a sabbatical. I didn't. You took a sabbatical. I didn't take one, you know? So, when we were children, we had this on our exercise books. On the back of it, there was a little ditty. June too soon, July stand by, August come it must, September, remember, October, it's all over. June is not too soon, and it's not all over in October, as we've known. This thing is a real challenge. So it's unfamiliar, it's unprecedented, and it's urgent. And that is why, and the last point I'm making, we have to elaborate small island exceptionalism. It's not just small island developing state. We are exceptional because of the nature of our vulnerabilities. And we have to elaborate a thesis around that. And we have to present that to the world, not as supplicants, but as recognizing our extant condition and how we can work together. Because these islands, people all over the world need us to survive and stay alive and develop. I promise that over the next year that I will do my best with the OECS chairmanship. I don't know if I'm going to be here for the full year because I have a transition underway in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be the chairman. Thank you very much.